Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. For those of you who don't know, my name is Nakia Harris, and I am here joined today by Trelawney, who is our resident guest because she is so awesome that way, and she has so much information to offer. So we could not have a show today without having a conversation with her. So what we're going to do is, Trelawney, tell us a little bit more about what you do and why we're here today.
Okay. Well, I am a confidence coach for the spiritual woman, but it is so much more than that. I am the mentor for the woman's self. So everything inside. And we are talking about the self-love standard because it is so in-depth. It is in everything you do, how you appear, how you think, how you move, how you feel, how you react or don't. It's the embodiment of who you are.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're talking about the self-love standard because it's like it encompasses so much more than just mental. There's a
Yes.
physical component, there's an emotional component, there's so much to it. So like you said, these conversations are just awesome. But wait, I'm looking at your necklace, this jewelry here. This is pretty cool. What is that?
That's a fairy stone. It's also called a goddess stone.
Oh,
It's
oh,
okay. If you want information on that, I'm gonna have to read it because so the site that I found information on this stone is crystalezeguide.com. Okay, so the fairy stone it honors the goddess and the divine feminine energy that gives and nurtures all of life. So it promotes humility, patience, compassion. It deepens an appreciation of the sacredness of your body and spiritual presence on earth. So basically, our human selves, our soul selves connected with earth where we are.
oh wow. And I
And
like
if
the
you are not grounded, you're going to put it on, you're going to feel that you're not quite grounded.
got you.
This is keeper us down a little bit, holds our feet in place.
Awesome, awesome. And so I also like the fact that it said you mentioned that it reminds you of your divine self
Mhm.
too.
Yes.
So
Well,
I
I
think
think even
that's
the
so
shape,
important,
right?
right?
So if you look
Absolutely.
at Gaia, Mother Earth, kind of the same shape. So I think that's why they call it a goddess stone, right?
Okay.
Shape of goddess.
Awesome. Awesome. And a reminder. So like you said, for grounding, it helps you
Yeah.
bring it back as well. Cool, because
Brings you
everything is
back into your
energy, right?
center.
Yeah, everything is energy. Everything is energy. So I love the fact that you have your stones. I saw your rings too,
Yeah.
with your stones as well,
Always.
just as reminders to. And I actually have some sitting here myself, just on my desk too, because I do believe that they play an important role in the energy that they hold too. You know, whether we
Hmm.
program them with energy or just their naturally occurring energy because they are earth resources, it's like, wow, this is so amazing, you know, what they can contribute to. So I'm not a super knowledgeable stone person, crystal person,
Yeah.
but I know there are people like yourself who are, and that's another thing. Like if people have questions, they can reach out to you on Facebook or through your group and get more information about, you know, the goddess stone or any other ones that may be useful for them when they're experiencing, you know, different situations, or even if they are experiencing a challenge where maybe, you know, they're questioning their self-love in a moment, and depending on the scenario. So interestingly, you know, when you're talking about your goddess energy, you're talking about remembering who we are as beings.
Hmm.
How do you feel, how much of a role that plays in our standard of self-love?
How we feel about ourselves.
Right. How much does that play into us knowing, you know, that we're spiritual beings, we have this feminine energy and this energy in general that we operate in. How does that play into our self-love?
I think it plays a huge fucking role because if you don't understand, if you don't come to an intimate understanding of what you believe, what you feel, who you truly are, then you are subjected to all of these things being dictated for you. It's
Ooh.
somebody else's version of you. It's somebody else's program of you. It's somebody else that decides what you should be, should say, go and dress and be and, live. And if we allow somebody else to tell us what to do, you're not in your self-love standard. You're in the love standard of what somebody wants you to be in. You're allowing somebody else to mold you and to box you. And if you have been in my space for any amount of time, I do not like boxes. I blow them the fuck up. So I want you to just remember your own power. And that's the whole point of what I do, right? Every woman has a power. I just help her remember where she put it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that we all have a power, because sometimes we encounter situations where we might be thinking we are powerless.
Yeah.
Like something is happening to us instead of for us. And especially if we've seen it happen, maybe even like in a cycle, like we've had this repeat of hurt. We've had a family member, and then maybe we had a romantic relationship, and then maybe we had a job situation. And so we start to run these cycles that create these wounds.
Yeah.
We have these injuries. So when we're remembering who we are, when we're struggling in those moments to remember who we are, what typically would you speak to someone who's in a moment of, I'm struggling because this hurts. This just hurts. That's as far as we can get with it. We can't even put no more to it than other than the fact that we know we're hurting. How do you speak to that with people?
There's not a blanket answer for that. It's going to depend on what they're hurting about, right? So if you're hurting because of a breakup, well, then I'm going to say we need to go back into our heart center, and we need to remember our self values, our worth, what we are actually capable of, and recognize that, yeah, it takes two to tango. You're going to have faults in how the relationship played out and how you got hurt, obviously. But there are some people that are just assholes that just hurt you, right? So we have to come back into self, and we have to remember our core. And that is, again, where I'm saying we have to go find our power and remember, I am a loving person. I am a gentle person. Yes, I can be fierce. I embody the yin and the yang of femininity and masculinity. However, what was done to me is bullshit. And we have to refuse to take responsibility for somebody else's actions towards us, right? What people do says more about them than it does about us.
Right.
And that is where I would start, right? We're going to come back into you are deserving. And not deserving of the bullshit treatment you just had. You are deserving of being treated properly. And so them hurting you and leaving is actually a gift. Like they have fucking removed their toxic self away from you.
Right.
Right? They've gifted you the space to heal and to remember.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great way of looking at it, because sometimes when you're in the midst of the pain, it's like, okay, this person did this to me, and oh, I'm injured. Look, I'm hurting. I'm bleeding. Look, that's the response. And so, but from what you're describing, we're not entertaining those. We recognize the injury. Okay. Yes. But the idea of really entertaining it in a different light is not seeming like what you're advocating.
You can't embody that pain as your now persona. That doesn't make you who you are. It adds building blocks, and it has interlocking pieces in your foundation of who you become, right? It will alter that stuff, but you can't say this is the end all be all. I was hurt, therefore I am now not worthy of anything. That is now my new thing. We don't do that, right? So you and I had been talking about that we don't, and I had to write it down, right? So we don't entertain the wounds. It's important that you recognize it. It's important that you acknowledge these things happened. It's important that you honor how you feel, which is where I come back again, cry, stomp it out, get angry, sit in it for a while. If you have to, it's okay. But remember to move through it, right? Everything is about releasing. So what doesn't work for us, we don't want to hold on to. But if we can't just shake it off, because some things hurt so badly, we can't just be like, well, I know I didn't deserve it, so therefore it doesn't matter. Right? And I'm perfectly fine, and we move on like nothing happened. Sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes it hurts so badly. We are so raw. It's okay to be in that. You can be in that. You have to feel it to honor it and move through it. You will never release anything if you don't look it in the face.
Yeah, yeah, and that whole idea of pushing through instead of
Yeah.
processing through a situation.
Yeah.
It's we have a hard time seeing what happened, acknowledging even, if we were culpable in what happened, assessing what was learned from it, and then moving forward if we can't make walk through it in that way. If we're just going to push through it, oh, okay, this sucked, they suck, and I'm just going to move forward to the next job. I'm just going to move forward to the next relationship. I'm just going to move forward without taking those steps in between. We do ourselves such a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a
and we end up weaponizing our wounds, right?
Ooh.
So if we don't honor them, if we don't feel them and see them and get some forgiveness, at least for ourselves, right? Maybe it's going to take you a while to forgive somebody outside of yourself. That's okay. Take the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to forgive ourselves because, first of all, we're human, and this is the whole dynamic of humanity. We make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. But if we don't process that stuff, if we don't feel it, if we don't allow it to be what it is, we end up weaponizing our wound. So we will carry that wound to the next person, to the next job, to the next thing, to the next interaction, the next intimate, moment, and we'll use it. We're going to come from that hurt, weaponized place instead of, oh, I recognize this. I healed that part of me. I don't think I want to be here for that. That's okay. Please, you do your thing. I'm going to go do my thing. Or it's going to be where, okay, I recognize this and it's familiar, so I must deserve this. I'll just stay. If we don't heal these things, if we don't forgive these things, they tend to dictate how we do everything past that, which brings you back into your self-love, right? You have to have that standard of, I see myself, I honor myself, I forgive myself, I love myself no matter what. I am my first unconditional love.
My first unconditional love. That is so important to bring into the picture as your starting point.
Yeah.
When that's happening, and who wants to weaponize our wounds? Like, are you serious right now? I mean, yes, I absolutely. When you said that, I had this visual of like walking around with like a broken heart, like, I'm just going to spew this all on everyone, but it's so true. Like the idea of, now we've turned this into something that we throw on everybody, into, any situation, whether it's warranted or not. Typically it's not. But to your point of going back to just the basic remembering, of who we are as individuals or who we were before that traumatic situation occurred.
Don't get me wrong. You're never going to be who you were. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That is impossible. I don't care who tells you it's possible. It is not, I promise you. We can never go backwards into being something we were. We will be forever changed. But that is also the point of humanity, right? Evolution, growth, shifting, learning. Knowledge is power. When you know better, you do better, hopefully. So you can empower your wounds. You can take power from it. Like, as an example, I was bullied in elementary, and I mean bullied, like for a whole year through. And instead of weaponizing that wound and lashing out at everybody, I empowered the wound and I became the bully of bullies. I became the one that stepped in between and stopped it all. So I made that a power instead of a continued raw seeping place inside of me.
Gotcha.
So we can choose to do that with any kind of wound that we have. I promise you there's always an empowerment piece to it.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer of that as well. I firmly believe that we can allow situations that test us, that, hurt us even, to really become positions or places that position us to make power moves or to, embody something from a more powerful stance. Like you mentioned, you were bullied. And then what that scenario taught you was how to actually presence yourself, maybe even on behalf of someone who's struggling to presence themselves against, the said bully. And we need people like you, out here, because there's a lot of bullies running around,
There is,
So
it's never underestimate the ability of a human to hurt another human.
Right.
Okay. If you don't do the inner work, the chances of you lashing out somewhere else at somebody else is astronomical. You will. It is a positive. It will happen. If you
Right.
do the inner work, it doesn't mean that you will never lash out, but what it does mean is that more often than not, you will be able to respond instead of react. You'll be able to process instead of fly the hell off,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You can have that moment of pause and be like, all right, let me weigh my options here, right? I can destroy this person in front of me, which internally is going to destroy me because that's what anger does. Or I can be like, is it worth my energy and my effort to course correct what this person is doing in this moment? Or is it just better for myself to be like, I just don't resonate with this person at all, and I think I'll just remove myself, right? Because everybody has the innate caveman reaction where, like, I'll just choke this person and you should just shut up. Nobody wants to hear you. But at the same time, we don't have to react on that anymore, right?
Right.
We're not fight or flighting for life anymore. We get to choose what we want around us, what we want to be, how we want to speak, what we choose to feel, choose to believe. And we get to also choose nowadays. We're very fortunate to decide who gets to be in our circle.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Love it. I choose. Any given moment, I can choose to exit myself. I can choose to presence myself if I so desire to be that way. Or, you know what, I can shift this whole situation. I decide. And that empowerment that you're speaking of, because that's what I consider that empowerment right there. We it speaks to that standard. Like it's all we're very aware of ourselves and what we're needing in that moment, and we're willing to put that as a priority, not as
Yes.
a slight to anyone else, but as a priority for ourselves, and not feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this
Well,
is this
your
is where
self-love
it's at.
standard becomes your roadmap, right? It
Hmm.
becomes a roadmap of how you want to live life. So I myself am a person of integrity. I take that very seriously. I'm very transparent. I'm very authentic. I'm going to say what I say and I mean what I say. I won't sugarcoat things. I'm not going to pull back, to protect delicate feelings. I will speak nicely, right? I'm not going to attack. Yeah, I'm not going to attack. But at the same time, I won't withhold my own truth because somebody else doesn't resonate with it, right? But so my self-love standard is this. If I come from a place of integrity, and the person I'm talking to does not come from a place of integrity, I already know that this isn't going to work.
Right.
Doesn't mean this person is less of a person than me. Doesn't mean that this person is less deserving of a good life or less worthy of anything. It just means that this person doesn't belong on my path, right?
They're
I
not.
know I don't want to stand where they're standing. And I also know I'm not going to force them to stand where I'm standing. That's not my job. My
Right.
job, especially as a mentor, that I have decided and taken on is my job is to just lead you back into what you strongly believe, what you want your path to look like. Do you want to move in integrity? I can help you with that. Do you want to move in honesty? I can help you with that. We can look at the worst case scenario, right? What if I'm not honest here? What will happen? What if I get caught? What will happen? Who cares? We are built on mistakes, right? And we thrive on knowledge. So know better, do better. But it's not my job to force you to be on a path or follow my beliefs at all. And I will say that until the cows come home, because I will turn away clients. If I feel that our integrity doesn't match, I cannot help you.
Right.
I cannot. Because I can't then pour everything of myself into this. I can't bring my full energy into your energy because our energies don't match. Our
And
end
so
goal is not the same.
it's not the same. And that speaks
No.
to you and your service, because there are some people who it's like, okay, this is just a client. This is someone coming to me,
Yeah.
and they're willing to, show up and attempt to
Money is money.
serve them. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
That is
So
not.
let the people
Yeah.
know this is not how you work. See, because that's the other thing about heart-centered work. When you're doing what you do, which you're definitely an example of that, someone who's doing what they do because this is what you feel in your heart, that you're moved to serve
Yeah.
humanity in this way. You're moved on a much deeper level other than the monetary component of it to say, okay, let me help you and serve you in the best way, because you came into my space, you came into my circle. So obviously you were sent here for a purpose. And so, yes, let me show up and do what I am designed to do in this moment. And so because of that, and like you said, operating in the integrity, operating from a very authentic place, it changes the game for people who are working with you, because you're not sugarcoating. I haven't heard any sugarcoating personally, and we've had plenty of conversations and sessions. So, and I'm thankful for that. I'm not great at receiving sugar-coated messages, if that makes sense, because I miss the signal.
Well, sometimes if we soften the blow too much, the point is missed. If I am so stuck in worrying about your feelings and, oh no, I've said something that she might not agree with, if I do that, I have to be liked. If I'm too concerned and wrapped up in that and how I come off, then I'm not doing you a service. I'm doing you a disservice, because you're missing the message. You're missing, the meat and potatoes of the thing that we're trying to get at. So I don't come harsh. I don't come rude. I don't come ignorant, but I do come point blank, and I do come frank, right? I come with the bare raw knowledge. And if it should hit hard, if it should hurt, I'm right there with you. I will stand in the mud. I will hold your heart. We will hold this space. We will give room to cry, to grieve, to yell, to stomp, to feel. And then I will also help you release it. So I don't leave you alone in the feeling, but I'm going to bring the feeling. I promise you, I am here to impact that energy.
Right.
I will. My job is to not leave you dormant.
Right.
I don't do that. I'm the wrong one. I am a shifter. I'm a mover, right? Like, I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a Reiki master. I deal with energy on a daily basis. Right now, I'm energizing myself as we speak. So to be in my presence is to be in the energy. And again, if we are just weaponizing wounds, right? That's not going to work.
No.
I don't want to build up the energy behind your wound.
Right.
I want to build up the energy of the clearing, the empowerment, the loving of self, the back in the heart center, because as we move from our heart center, we would have way less violence.
Yeah. And the fact that you're saying, that you're speaking from the healing component, we're not weaponizing this. We're looking to process through, learn from it, so that you said we're not bringing this back up into these other scenarios, and equipping people with the tools to maintain this. Yes. Okay, so once they gain an understanding, like, okay, this is what I need to do in these scenarios, raising our maintenance levels to make sure we operate in those spaces, will be required, because this is not a one-time, one scenario thing. Because there's always going to be situations that come up that we may feel wounded by it, or may hurt us in some way, and how do we navigate through that while still maintaining our self-love standard, while and not just maintaining it barely. I'm talking high level maintenance of
embodying.
Yes, our self-love, because that's what I feel is needed now in this day and time of inauthentic, let's make it flashy and make a lot of noise. Let's just make it sound good, make it look good, and then people will be attracted to it. But is it really effective? Not so much.
And sometimes it is. Sometimes the really flashy people, the ones in luxury, the ones that have, thousands and millions of dollars, sometimes their stuff is so fucking amazing. And sometimes it's not. And so I'm going to say to you, again, everything comes back to the energy. You will feel it. You'll feel it if it's off. Trust yourself. And trusting yourself is also a component of the self-love standard, right? If we don't trust ourselves, then how do we know how to trust anybody else? We have to have a standard, a level of what the baseline trust looks like to then have that idea or the view of somebody else. Can they be trustworthy? Well, what the hell does trust look like? Right?
Right.
Well, do they love us properly? Well, how do we know that if we don't have a ground basis of what loving us looks like to us? Right? So everything we want to see outside of ourselves, we need to see in ourselves. And
Say that loud for people in
that's that whole love standard, you
Yeah,
know?
say it loud. Say that loud for the people in the back. We can't expect to come to us what we're not able to give ourselves. So yeah, they
Yeah,
got to hear that.
yeah,
So
like
that's why
you,
it's self-love, right?
yeah, you
That's
have
why it's
to,
self-love.
look at yourself, um, in a raw way. You're going to see things you don't like. Okay, it
Mhm.
is inevitable. And even myself, of course, I will see things I still don't like. Do I make mistakes? Hell yes. Do I admit my mistakes? I do. Do I correct them if I can correct them? Absolutely. But that's because when you know better, you do better. And I've been saying this for years, right? So we are always learning. We're never going to be a master of anything. The only thing we can do is master our moments, which is why I say I'm a healer of moments. I'm not going to heal you. We're not going to like magically, here's a pill, snap my fingers, wave a wand, and everything is great. You've never experienced anything. You've never felt the pain. We're just moving in rosebuds. No, not at all. We are going to heal some moments. So those
Right.
moments that are really hard to get through, we're going to feel them. We're going to shift them. We're going to release them. And you are still going to have a little scar of where it was. That's called experience. You
Experience. Yeah.
know, we have a multitude of experiences in this life in our human suits, and we can't erase those, but we can learn from them, and we can grow from them, and we can empower them, and we can utilize them to empower every footstep we take thereafter.
Right. And that is so awesome. And see, and thank you for sharing that. And that's why I feel like these conversations are important and to bring light to people like yourself who do this work. Because sometimes there's this misconception that healing is going to be this smooth, beautiful
Rainbows and unicorns.
rose petal. Right. When in
Yeah,
actuality, it's messy, it's scar ridden, in some
yeah,
cases. And it's good to know, though, that there are people like yourself who have this service available for people who really want to go in, do the work, because it is
yeah.
work. It's not something that you do for people. People do for themselves.
Correct.
We have to do our own work. And so knowing that there's people who can, when it's a little thick, are available to kind of walk you through and guide you through and hold your hand through and support you
Yeah.
through your process, and even be a second set of eyes in some cases when you're just not seeing something.
Yeah.
They can help,
A
clear up some
bird's eye
stuff. So you're
view.
like, oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
I
And
will be
so,
in the mud. I'll get in the muck. There's nothing you're going to stand in that I'm going to say, oh, that's too much for me. I will jump in. I will jump the hell in as long as your intention is
mhm,
to have an outcome of moving past. If you
yeah,
just want to
that's
wallow,
right,
if you want misery and company, I am not your girly. It is
right,
not going to work. I will turn you down flat,
right,
and I will lose no sleep over it. And I will not hold judgment on it either because it's your path. If that is really what you want to be, I allow you to be. And I
right.
allow me to be, which means no. But if your intention is to move past this, to get through this, so that you don't have to relive it and redo it, then I'm there for it.
All day. That's awesome. And so, just a reminder again, where people can find you on
Mhm.
Facebook. Uh, I know you have your personal page, the Trelawney Lynn Gardner. Then
No,
you have your group.
Lonnie Gartner. You will find me.
Oh,
That is my main profile, Lonnie Gartner. The
okay,
the group is the Queen's Passage, and I'm only taking females.
okay,
I only work with females right now. The men are welcome to listen to our free content like this, but I don't take male clients. I take female clients.
awesome, awesome. Okay, and if they wanted to email you a question, because we can do that here too. So for anyone
Yeah.
who's listening in, if you have a question for Trelawney, and you might want to keep it anonymous or anything of that nature,
Mhm.
which is fine. You can also email your questions to her. What would
Yeah.
be a good way or email address for you?
Treelani@hotmail.com. So it's my first
Awesome.
name, and it's spelled here on the screen for you.
Yep. And we're going to add all this information too at the bottom of the video. So all of the ways to contact her will be available. So we like to make these conversations interactive. So absolutely, if you have anything that you would like her to discuss further or espouse on more,
Mhm.
share them with us and we'll definitely entertain them here. And so thanks again, Trelawney, for coming in. Always enjoy the conversations. I know we only just scratched the surface of, how deep this process can go, but that's all we're here to do for the most part, is to at least initiate these conversations for people to think And if
In the
they're going
conversation.
through and if they're needing, some support, to know that you're available and willing to assist.
Absolutely.
So thanks again. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in the next time when we have our next conversation. Y'all have a great
Thank you,
one.
Nakia.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.